Devin Bakhtale, my name is Florian, and I'm going to be answering your burning questions about Romani people. Let's get into it. If you've ever had a question and went to do a Google search on Romani people, you might have found that there's a lot of conflicting information, misinformation, or just a lack of an answer in general, and there's very little input from actual Romani people on these questions. And that's what I'm here for. Now, obviously, disclaimer, I do not speak for all Romani people. That would be impossible. As you're going to see in the answers to these questions, we are a very diverse and varied people. However, I am Romani myself, and for the past years, I've been working with Romani communities from all over the world. So I do have a fair bit of experience on the topics that I will be covering. So this video is inspired by the Wired autocomplete interviews. You may have seen them. And we're going to do a similar style to them. So we're going to start off with the question, why? Why do Romani people not have our own state, our own Romanistan? Now, this is one of those really great questions that Google just doesn't have a great answer for. So I'm going to try my best to explain it. Now, one thing that we really should mention is that throughout the entirety of our existence, from when we left India, our ethnogenesis, to now, Romani people have never had our own state. We've never had our own country. There's a multitude of reasons for this, but the primary one really is culture. Throughout our entire history, even when we were in India, we were a stateless nomadic minority, and that didn't change when we left. So unlike other nomadic minorities that did go on to establish their own states, we never had our own military. We never had any interest in forcing other people to adapt to our institutions. Our institutions were closed practices to ourselves. So really, historically, Romani people had no interest in establishing our own military to create our own state. Now, there were some quick talks after World War II about establishing our own Romani state by non-Romani leaders and even some Romani leaders. However, that was rejected by most Romani communities. At that point, Romani people were already spread out around the whole world. We've become so diverse to this point where different Romani groups really had their own cultures that were tied to their regions that they've lived in for hundreds of years. A Brazilian Romani person is very different from a Turkish Romani person or a Finnish Romani person. So we've already had all this entire diversity in our cultures, our traditions, even different dialects of our language that would make a state very impractical. And again, there really is no empty plot of land to create an ethno-state. And most Romani people are not fans of ethno-states either, as usually that means ethnic cleansing, and we've had a lot of experience with ethnic cleansing, unfortunately. For most Romani people, our Romanistan, our Romani homeland is wherever we go. We take our country with us in our hearts where we travel. That moves us on to our second question. Why do Romani people face discrimination? Now, this one is a loaded question and I could go on and on, but I'm just going to put it very simply. When Romani people first entered Europe, we were very different. We were different to the people there. We had our own skin tone, our own features, our own culture, our own language, our own customs that were just very different to Europeans. They didn't understand it. They've never seen anything like that before. I mean, for the average medieval European, you've never seen a brown person before. Growing up hearing about dark skin being associated with bad things. So in general, people are scared of what they don't know. And it's easy to assign blame to people that you don't know, to aliens, to foreigners. We even see that to this day. And that's really where anti-Roma racism started from. And those stereotypes just continue to build on from generations to generation. Why do Romani people travel? Now, a lot of people think it's in our culture. We have this free-spirited gypsy soul. We go wherever the wind takes us. We're natural-born travelers. And even though we may have had a nomadic culture, even going back to India, a large part of this nomadism wasn't by choice. It was because of that racism and that discrimination we just talked about. Whenever something went wrong in these European towns and villages, who do you think they were going to blame? It wasn't safe to settle in one place, and then the next day you see torches and pitchforks coming towards you. We had to be constantly on the move for our own safety. And now if you look at Romani people in this day and age, most Romani people are settled. So very little Romani people continue that traveling tradition. I'm sure for some Romani people, they do value traveling and they do see it as a part of their culture, but for most Romani people, we are settled. How do Romani people make money? You see, contrary to popular belief, we actually do have our own traditional jobs and professions that we've actually preserved ever since we were in ancient India. One of these main jobs and professions is music. Music really is the backbone of our culture. I would say it's our oldest ever profession. Romani people are known for our music worldwide. You have the Loutar, the Bashalde. Every single Roma group has musicians and dancers as well. It really is a huge part of our culture. Another big part of our culture is metalworking. These traditions were passed down from ancient India for generations to generations. We have blacksmithing, goldsmithing, silversmithing, and more. Some other traditional professions among Romani people include basket weaving, bricklaying, fortune telling, flower selling, horse training, bear training, circusry, and more. On this day and age, Romani people have all sorts of jobs, from doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, and so on. Still, a lot of Romani people keep to these itinerant jobs. That means jobs that require you to travel around. So like seasonal workers, construction workers, mechanics are very common jobs among Romani people. How do Romani people live? In various different ways. We are very diverse people. Unfortunately, a lot of Romani people do live below the poverty line. However, some Romani people live pretty great, so it really depends. How do Romani people look like? Now, we are very diverse people, so you can see Romani people in all sorts of shades and colors. However, we do have our own set of Romani features that are pretty recognizable to other Romani people. Some Romani people look straight out of India, other Romani people look more European, and most Romani people fall somewhere in between. How do Romani people feel about the word gypsy? Now I want to separate this into two different questions. One, is gypsy a slur? Yes, it is very much a slur. It was created as a slur, it's historically been used as a slur, and it continues to be used as a slur to this very day. That being said, there is a variance of opinion among Romani people on how they feel about this word. Some Romani people hate this word. Other Romani people have no problem with it. Some Romani people even prefer it. So it really depends. But the fact of the matter is, it still is a slur. What makes someone Romani? Contrary to popular belief, we're not a lifestyle. We're an actual ethnic group with our own DNA markers, our own language, our own history, our own culture. So what makes someone Romani is the same as asking what makes someone African American, what makes someone Punjabi, what makes someone Kurdish. It's a mix of DNA, culture, lived experiences, and more. So how does someone become Romani? Well, contrary to popular belief, Romani isn't a lifestyle, it's not a nationality, it's not a religion. So there really is no way to become Romani unless you're born Romani. Now, in some communities, but not all, you are allowed to marry into the culture if you're not Romani. And then in some cases, you may be considered culturally Romani. But this does not apply to all communities. Where do Romani people come from? We come from India. And if you want to know more about our Indian origins, I have a whole video dedicated to it. It's my first ever video. You can check out on my channel. Are Romani people white? Short answer, no, absolutely not. Long answer, it really depends. So yes, Romani people originate in India. However, there are some Romani groups living in Europe who have historically mixed with non-Romani Europeans for quite some time now, and they look pretty phenotypically white. I mean, if you see them, you say, yeah, that's a white person. However, why I say no, absolutely not, is because race is a social construct. And ever since the inception of race in the European Middle Ages, the Romani people and the Romani identity has been racialized as non-white. The very idea of being Romani is being non-white. And that has continued to this very day. So anti-Romani racism is very much based on this idea that Romani people are not white people. So even though there are people who are mixed Romani, who may have recent white ancestry, or their clan is multi-generationally mixed with white travelers, it really doesn't matter because Romani people still to this day are not viewed as white on a societal basis. On an individual basis, there are Romani people who are seen as white. However, that is despite them being Romani, because Romani people as a group are racialized as a non-white group. Are Romani people Indian? While yes, we do have an Indian origin, we are not Indian by nationality. India is a country and it is a very diverse country. So a lot of people say, oh, Romani people are just Indians. What does that mean, just Indians? India is full of various diverse ethnic groups. So ethnically, we are Romani. We have our own culture, we have our own language that has been separated from India for about 1,000 years. However, we are still proud of our Indian roots. Are Romani people Romanian? Very common mistake. No, Romania is its own country. Romanians have their own language, their own culture, their own ethnicity. A lot of Romani people like myself are from Romania or are even mixed with Romanian, again, like myself. However, that doesn't mean Romani people are Romanian. These are two very different ethnic groups that just happen to share a similar name. However, that name does have two very different origins. Are Romani people of color? Again, yes, but it also depends because Romani people are very diverse and varied people. Are Romani people from India? Yes, again. Are Romani people Christian? Most of us, yes, a majority of Romani people do identify as Christian. Are Romani people Muslim? Yes, a significant minority of Romani people also do identify as Muslim, mostly in the Balkans and Turkey and the area of the former Ottoman Empire. Are Romani people indigenous? This is a very interesting question because most people be like, no, they're from India. However, there have been some convincing arguments that Romani people are indigenous to certain regions that they have inhabited for a long time and have really mixed into that indigenous culture. Why do gypsies marry young? Now, first of all, I want to establish that not all Romani people marry young. However, unfortunately, this is something that does happen. Historically, we can attribute this to slavery and just the need to survive. Romani people didn't really have a long lifespan, so they needed to marry as young as possible to ensure the survival of our group, or they were forced to marry young by their enslavers. However, in the modern day, we really see that child marriage is associated with poverty and the lack of education. A lot of Romani people live below that poverty line, and we see a direct correlation between poverty, that lack of education, and child marriage. Why do gypsies marry cousins? Well, unfortunately, life is not a TLC show, so most Romani people do not actively go out to marry their cousins. However, sometimes it does happen because Romani people, again, are a very endogamous group. That means we usually only marry within our culture, and even within that, a lot of Romani people only marry within their clans. So sometimes it does happen where the clan is small enough where it doesn't matter who you end up with, so they'll be your extended cousin somehow, but usually cousin marriages are frowned upon in Romani culture. Why do gypsies live in trailers? Well, first and foremost, most Romani people don't live in trailers. Most Romani people are settled. Even some Romani people even have huge palaces. But there are some Romani people who still do live in trailers. Historically, we used to live in wagons. And that's because they're preserving that old tradition of traveling. And I've answered, why do Romani people travel? Why do Romani people wear gold? Well, it is part of our culture. The outwardly display of wealth is pretty big. However, Romani people historically have had to wear gold on our clothes and our hair, on our bodies, and more so, because it wasn't safe to leave our gold anywhere else. We traveled around all the time. We didn't really have any safe place to keep that gold, so we had to keep it on our bodies. What language do Romani people speak? Well, we speak the Romani language, Romani chip. You might also hear people say Romanes or Romanes. Like someone will say, Janes Romanes, do you know Romani? Or Desduma Romanes, or Vaqueres Romanes. That's basically asking people if they speak Romani. However, Romanes doesn't necessarily mean Romani. It means in the Romani way. So you can ask someone if they dance Romani, if they act Romani, and so on. And we have reached the end of our video. But if you still have any unanswered burning questions about Romani people, I highly recommend you leave them in the comment section, and I'll try my best to get to them. And then other Romani people in the comment section as well, feel free to give your opinion on them as well. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Te vlesa!